Philadelphia Eagles versus the San Francisco 49ers for the NFC Championship game. We're here to break it down. Keys to victory, key matchups, key players of the game. We're going to give it – this is it. We are all in today on Trending in the AM, and it starts in 30 seconds.
Holding, gets around in front.
And Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Do me that favor. Make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button on the DSM Media YouTube page. It's the best place to get interactive with the show. Drop your comments, thoughts, predictions for this weekend's championship games, all that there on the YouTube page. I'd greatly appreciate it. I am Phil Stifle, your host here at Trending in the AM. We got Jason Voorhees sitting in next to me today. He's wearing his Super Bowl 52 shirt. Oh, hold on. Let me get some Eagles gear on here. Let's put this on. That was not planned. I kind of forgot to put that on ahead of time. Good morning, Jason. I know you slept very little, and I know you're going to sleep very little all weekend because, man, I mean, this is fun. We do this show every day, talking sports, but I'm excited. It's very hard for me to control my excitement and have an unbiased discussion on this game because we've never, as podcasters, as content creators, we've never been in this point with the Eagles.
I know, man, because could you imagine if we were in 2017? We'd probably be a lot further along now, but it is exciting. I don't know, like I'm just so amped up. It's all I think about. I haven't even been like thinking of other things that I normally do. Like I normally enjoy watching TV shows. I did watch a movie the other night, but by the way, Mind Cage, if you haven't saw it, if you're a John Malkovich fan, check it out. It'll blow your mind.
Well, let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and how they're going to blow the world's minds away this weekend when they win against the San Francisco 49ers. I'm just going to spoiler alert. We'll give our predictions at the end of the show, but spoiler alert, Jason and I are both picking the Eagles to win this game and go into the Super Bowl. There's no doubt in my mind that that's how this show will end. But how are we going to get to that prediction? Because, I did an interview with Connor Thompson from 97.5 The Fanatic with Dylan yesterday, right here on DSM Media. That's why you got to make sure you have the notifications on because when those pop-up videos happen, you don't want to miss it. Something he said to me in that interview about, the Eagles and the disrespect they've been getting to this point is just confirmation of what we've seen all year, that they earned this right to be in the championship game by playing the best football in the NFL. And I thought that really stuck out to me, the confirmation of what we've seen, that little phrase that he said there, because we've been seeing it all year, but there's always been a little bit of doubt. But we are in the championship game now. So it is proof to the pudding that we deserve to be here. Being 14-3, it's not like we were the number 7 seed. We got lucky in a playoff game, ended up getting here. We were one of the best teams in football all year, and we're playing for the right for the Super Bowl, which is what the best team should do every year, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and we're there because of the guy that's driving the bus, Jalen Hurts. I mean, let's be real. Mm-hmm. If Jalen Hurts doesn't take the jump that he did this year, we're probably not talking conference championship.
Right.
Because as well as you could say, yes, up and down their roster, it's probably the most complete roster the Eagles have ever had. It's still the fact that Jalen Hurts is the one making the plays. He's a leader, and that's the intangibles. You always talk about that you can't quantify that. Right. The importance of intangibles, and Jalen Hurts is the epitome of that. Like, he really is. And he has this team believing. He's had them believing since day one. Even when people were, clowns like Chris Sims were, having him rated the 33rd quarterback out of 32 starters. I mean, those kind of nonsense things. And, even a lot of people in our own fan base that said, well, I still don't think Jalen Hurts is the answer, and I think we'll be looking for a quarterback at the end of this season. There was tons of those kind of people that were saying, well, I'll never buy into Jalen Hurts. He's just never going to be good. And, I've been able to talk to quite a few people, and they've admitted they are wrong. Like, they were wrong. A lot of people just.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You said it really well. Like the intangibles and the growth, and look, the expectations for this season before the season. Yes, me and you were on the Jalen Hurts hype train. We believed that he would get better, but even us, the two of the biggest, Jalen Hurts supporters, could not have foreseen this kind of a jump. And now our expectations have changed, and we talked about this with the Phillies. We're talking about it with the Eagles. We've talked about it with the Sixers. Expectations do and can change. And it all started with we could talk about key matchup, key players, but it all starts with the X factor. This is a quarterback-driven league. And Jalen Hurts is the biggest X factor possibly left in the playoffs because we still, to an extent, don't fully know what Jalen Hurts is capable of. I really, truly believe Jalen Hurts is just tapping in to his full potential. Like Joe Burrow, we know what he is. He's played in a Super Bowl. He had the hype coming out of the college. Patrick Mahomes, for as young as he is, he's a veteran, and he's a superstar, and he's one of the best in the game. Brock Purdy, we don't know what Brock Purdy is. There's a lot of hype there. But the Jalen Hurts part of it, he is the ultimate X factor left of these four teams because I don't know if we even know how great he can be at this point. If he grew that much in 1 year, what is he really, truly capable of?
All awesome points, Phil. And I'll go one step further. I definitely don't think we've seen Jalen Hurts' best game this season. I think we still have a better game to see. And there's only 2 games left. And I don't think we've even seen the Eagles' best game. I would say last week was as close to probably their best game as we saw, but it was against the Giants. Mm-hmm. So I'm really, excited to see them, how they match up against a team that is a worthy, better playoff team. Because we all agree that I think the Niners are the best other team other than the Eagles in the conference. So I think we're getting the best matchup that we possibly could in this season.
I totally agree with you on that. And that's great because you know what? With the extra playoff team in each conference, the extra rounds of the playoff, and everything that's going on, the expansion of football and sports, to get the best 2 teams playing in the championship game doesn't happen often. And it's great to see the best 2 teams got here because no matter how it goes down, even if the Eagles say lost, at least we lost to another great. This is the battle for who's the best. It's not like us going up against the number 7 seed and they're just on a heater. You know what I mean? It's literally the 2 best teams. Now I see Drew's comment here. Rookies are 0-4 in championship games. I actually thought it was 0-7. Maybe you're right on 0-4, and I was going to bring this up. So I want to dive into the 49ers a little bit since Kyle took over the Niners when they lose a turnover battle. Yeah, I mean, another great point. That's one of the notes I've written down here to cover today. This Brock Purdy, the rookies don't perform as well. Like they've never won in a championship game, obviously. All right, so we both agree the Brock Purdy hype train is overhyped, right? But on the flip side of the equation, all year long we've talked about intangibles, culture, and things like that with the Eagles, Nick Sirianni, and this Eagles team. Well, the 49ers have a great culture, system, and team as well. And there's a lot of carryovers. Last year, this team, except for quarterback, played in the championship game. 2 years ago, they played in the Super Bowl. A lot of carryovers from 2019 in that Super Bowl still on this team. Is there any scenario where those numbers of the rookies in championship games, the inexperience of Brock Purdy is being overhyped by us Eagles fans? Because, look, this team is a damn good team that's got a great system in place, a great culture, and they've been there, done that before. I've been told I'm wrong on this, but I think that there is some storyline or thread there that we're not looking at.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I think you're bringing up a valid point. I'm just not ready to go there because okay. I get it. Yes, we probably.
Hold on, real quick before you do. The theory is like Brock Purdy's going to be overwhelmed by the fans at the link. Brock Purdy's going to be overwhelmed by the moment. But you've got Kyle Shanahan, you've got Kittle, you've got all these guys that have been there, done it before, they're going to be able to hold him, like calm him down, settle him down. Yo, we got your back. Don't try to do too much. We've been here. We know what it takes to win this game. That's good. It's kind of like, if Jalen Hurts was here but not having the season he had, you would have Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey calming Jalen Hurts down because they've been there, done it before. You know what I mean? That experience factor is not being looked at in my mind.
I think if a couple things were different, I think we would be looking at this game differently. I think if Lane Johnson wasn't playing, I would definitely say that I would be nervous. The fact that Lane Johnson is playing, and you look at the factors in the discrepancy in the records when he does play as opposed to when he doesn't play, it's insane. I mean, I think they're like 70-something and 20-something when he plays, and it's like 10 and 21 when he doesn't play. Like it's mind-boggling. So the importance of the offensive line. I see where you're going with this theory and the thread, and I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I'm looking at these two teams and I say yes, they're pretty even. Yeah. Other than the quarterback, I think that's what definitely gives the Eagles the edge. I don't see a world where the Eagles lose this game unless they beat themselves. If the Eagles turn the ball over, most definitely the 49ers are going to capitalize. Could they lose? Yeah.
So here's the question, though. So you bring up the turnovers, and Drew brought in a comment, since the Niners took over, with their turnover battle, what their numbers are. So the thing is, the 49ers don't turn the ball over a lot. The Eagles have been known as a team that creates a lot of turnovers. The Eagles also don't turn the ball over. So the 49ers so far in 2 playoff games, they've created 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble, and they haven't turned the ball over yet in the 2 playoff games. So what do the Eagles need to do? How do they get to Brock Purdy and create these turnovers when you've got guys? Christian McCaffrey, never been known as a guy that fumbles the football. Deebo Samuel, he protects the ball well. Brock Purdy, most of the time, gets rid of the ball quickly, so he's not going to get that strip sack, problem. So we need to create. They don't turn the ball over. They create some turnovers. We create a lot of turnovers. How do we create those turnovers to win the game? Because everything that they do, the 49ers, does not lead to a lot of turnovers.
Well, first and foremost, I think the 49ers, if I'm looking at this from a perspective of, what their game plan should be, it almost definitely should be a run-first attack because you want to protect Brock Purdy. Like, I'm looking at this from the opposite side. Like, if I'm the 49ers, I'm saying, okay, we're going to try to run the ball. We're going to try to establish the run. They don't just have Christian McCaffrey. They have Elijah Mitchell, who was their starter before they traded for Christian McCaffrey. And Elijah Mitchell's a 1,000-yard rusher last year. So I don't think that they're not slouches at running back. And I see a lot of Eagles fans saying that our running backs are better. I disagree. I think Christian McCaffrey is by far one of the best running backs in the NFL.
And you have Deebo Samuel takes the ball out of the backfield a lot as well. So it's almost like they have a 3-headed monster at running back.
Yeah, because you can't, like, Deebo, I mean, yes, he is a wide receiver, but he's used so many different ways. Like, he's used, he's basically like an ultimate weapon because he can run the ball.
I was just going to say that. He's an ultimate weapon.
He really is.
He's a Swiss Army. He's like that pocket knife that MacGyver would pull out, and it's got 9 different attachments on it. That's what Deebo Samuel is.
If Randall was a wide receiver, that's what he would have been, So, I don't know. Like I said, I believe that the way to get to Purdy is, yes, you're going to have to put pressure on him. He does get rid of the ball quickly. So you're going to have to – I think they're going to have to disguise their blitzes, to the fact where, maybe –
We're bringing up press man and send the blitz. I mean, we know who Jonathan Gannon is. He's not a press coverage defensive coordinator. And he blitzes, but not like the traditional style of blitzes. So, if you're not going to press, you better hope that our front 4 can get home and at least disrupt Brock Purdy. Now, I told you before the show, I couldn't find it. And someone shared a video and put a compilation video together of all the Brock Purdy almost interceptions. And he has gotten, and you don't realize it, he has gotten damn lucky this year. There have been about a dozen times in his 6-7 starts where passes over the middle have just been dropped. Bad throws that, should have been intercepted. Just overthrows that if the defense was in the right place would have been. So as good as Brock Purdy's numbers have been, there is a thread that he's kind of gotten a little lucky as well. So if you can get the pressure on him, that is how you create the turnovers. He might not get strip sacked. We might not play that press man coverage, but you have to get pressure on Brock Purdy. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and that's why I believe that the 49ers game plan is going to be to try to get away from that. They're going to try to run the ball, and they're going to do the quick, screens to McCaffrey, the slants to Debo. They're going to go up the seam to Kittle. Kittle's going to get some play. I mean,
Absolutely.
Listen, our linebackers have played great this year, but our linebackers compared to the 49ers, that's their definite edge. The 49ers have their linebackers actually have a capability of, I'm not going to say they're going to stop Goddard, but Goddard might not have that big game that we saw him have last week.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think their linebackers are super talented and they're really good in coverage. So, the Eagles are going to have to be smart in that way. But back to the,
I'm not letting the linebackers cover George Kittle. I'm putting Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on George Kittle. I mean, I know he's a smaller body than, say, a Edwards or Kazir to, like, body up with Kittle, but at least he knows how to cover a little bit better. So I'm making sure, you got Darius Slay or Bradbury shading, Debo Samuel. You got the other on Brandon Ayuk. I'm making sure Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is following George Kittle all over the field. Whenever he releases from the line and runs a route, I'm making sure one of my best guys at coverage is covering that guy. I don't want George Kittle beating us over the middle at all. And I don't have faith in Kazir White to do that.
Because it's funny because everybody's saying like Debo, Ayuk, McCaffrey. I think Kittle is their X factor because that's who Brock Purdy has actually had his most success throwing to.
Most young rookie quarterbacks do tend to throw to that
tight end. Exactly. So I think
he's a beast in the blocking game. He's a beast on the goal line. George Kittle, I think, at one point a year or two ago was trending towards the conversation of one of the elite top 2 or 3 tight ends. He's still there, but he's not in the conversation anymore for some reason. But he is legit one. I mean, no offense to Dallas Goedert meant, George Kittle at this point in his career is a better tight end than Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, I think Dallas Goedert has the potential to be George Kittle, but George Kittle's been doing it for quite a long time. I mean, since he's been in the league, he's really shown an ability to be in that upper echelon. And the guy, he has had an injury history, and that might be why he's not really getting the talk, like you just said. Like,
right.
He doesn't really kind of get, obviously he doesn't get the credit
mentioned with Kelsey and the Goddard and Darren Waller, but he had a lot of injuries this year as well. But George Kittle's right up there as a top 3-4 tight end in football, and
that's the guy that I'm most concerned of. I'm not gonna lie. Like yes, Debo is a freak and he scares everybody and he's a playmaker. But you look at Debo, he hasn't really done much in this playoff run. He's been kind of quiet, and I'm not saying that he can't break off a big run. He can. He's capable of it. But I think the Eagles have a good enough secondary that they're not going to let him run wild on them. And if they do start doing that, then the Eagles need to adjust, obviously. And we've seen Jonathan Gannon this year, as much as we bitch about him, he's been excellent at adjusting down the stretch, at least, not early in the season. But, to your points, I think, the 49ers definitely are a great opponent. And it's not going to be a walk. It's not going to be a cakewalk.
All right, so I want to get back to this coaching battle because everyone wants to talk about Purdy versus Hurts and, Brock Purdy, the hype train. And I kind of started talking about it a little bit, the experience factor on the coaching staff. Obviously, Shanahan, I mean, look, I know there's a lot of disrespect about who's in the finalists for Coach of the Year, Dabble, Peterson. But let's give credit where credit's due. Kyle Shanahan does deserve to be in that finalist. If anybody was going to win the award outside of Nick Sirianni, I'd want it to be Kyle Shanahan. I mean, the guy has done a great job coaching this year. Let's be honest. George Kittle has missed a bunch of time this year. I'm pretty sure Debo Samuel missed a couple games this year. They got Christian McCaffrey, 6-8 weeks into the season. He's on his 3rd quarterback, and he's playing in the NFC Championship game as the number 2 seed. Let's make sure that we give credit. I mean, we're all talking about Nick Sirianni and how his assistant coaches are looking to be poached. D'Amico Ryan, their defensive coordinator, is ranked higher in the coaching circle interview process right now than either of the two Eagles assistants, because this team is such a well-coached culture team. And I think that really will go far in keeping the game under control, even though you have a rookie quarterback behind center.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan is I mean, he's a genius as far as the way he runs that team. Like,
I mean, what coach out there could take a third string quarterback and get to a championship game?
Not many.
Maybe Nick Sirianni. I don't know, but
I think Doug Peterson could have done it. Had
he did it with a backup quarterback. So yeah,
I'm just saying. I think there are a couple out there.
Yeah, who was our third string quarterback that year?
Nate Sudfeld.
Ah, that's right. Best deep thrower of the football ever by Ron Jaworski.
Jeff Lurie.
Well, Ron Jaworski said it too. I was like, yeah, no, Ron, I hate to disagree with you, Jaws, but yeah, no. So something else I wanted to touch on here, and it's back on the Nick Sirianni side of the thing. There's an interesting article Ed Kratz shared yesterday. I think it was written by John McMullen, and it was talking about the swagger of Nick Sirianni. So this is outside of the actual X's and O's coaching and the practice coaching. And I'm sure you've seen the video of Nick Sirianni during the game on the sideline last week, and I love that a 4K camera caught it. So the graphic of it is, stellar. But Nick Sirianni's like the new age coach. No longer are coaches on a sideline, all prim and proper, holding that clipboard or that chart, whatever. Is there something to, is Nick Sirianni like changing the image of what an NFL head coach could and should be if you want to be successful? Because let's be honest, I mean, he's not calling plays. He's just the leader of the team. His swagger translates to the players and gives them confidence. I love the new style of coach that Nick Sirianni is trying to bring into the NFL, and I'm hoping it translates to at least appearance in the Super Bowl, but continued success, because not only do the players gravitate towards it, the fans gravitate towards it. It brings an excitement level to the team. I love this new swagger, and it's not like the old, I'm trying to think of one of the, old coaches, wearing a tie and a coat on the sideline. It's a totally different way of leading a franchise.
Absolutely. I love it. I love the fact that he's able to be him. He's real. I think a lot of
being him.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You look at what you're talking about, like the prototypical coaching, all prim and proper. Yeah, it's almost mechanical. Like, that to me is dull and boring. Like, I don't think that translates to today's athletes, because today's athletes are living in the world of social media. Think about it. Social media was not around 20 years ago, so you would never even see this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I'm sure, coaches that were like Nick Sirianni, but you just didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you're actually seeing it, yes, I think it does and will translate, because I think people are able to see what is wrong with letting your guard down and being you. Show some emotion. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean that you're like charading on the sideline. Like, a lot of these people are jealous of it. You heard that Pittsburgh reporter was like calling Sirianni out. Like, dude, screw you. Like,
I mean, just look at the difference between Nick Sirianni and Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. I mean, Mike Tomlin and Nick Sirianni run their teams the same way, where they're just the leaders. And Mike Tomlin's obviously had great success. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. Won Super Bowls, been there many a times, but he's that prim and proper kind of guy.
Business-like, yes.
He's very business-like, very rigid-like. Nick Sirianni's the complete opposite. He's literally, I wouldn't be surprised if he's doing rock, paper, scissors on the sideline, or I would love to see him put the basketball court on the sideline. You know what I mean? In between the quarters, throwing up jump shots. Like, it's a new attitude, a new way of doing things. And I hope it translates to long-term success, because it makes it more fun to watch. It makes it more entertaining.
It's definitely more fun to watch.
What's that?
It's definitely more fun to watch. And I think, more importantly, you see how the players have kind of gravitated to that. Like, and listen, I love Doug Peterson.
People want to be here because of Jalen Hurts, but also because of Nick Sirianni. Miles Sanders probably is willing to take a couple $1 million less to stay here in Philly, because of the situation and the culture that Nick Sirianni, the new level of coach, has put together. You know, Hassan Reddick could have probably gotten $5 or $10 million more to go elsewhere. He came here. A lot of guys want to be here because of Nick Sirianni.
And how crazy is that I know I didn't want him. I know when we signed him, I was like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say I didn't want him. I didn't know who he was. You know, you know what? They said in the interview in the press conference, Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie said it, that Nick Sirianni wowed them in the interview process. And that's what won them over on him. Well, we're seeing the energy that he gave them in that interview process right now. And I think that is a win. You have Nick Sirianni's energy and how it translates to the players and his new style of leading. Combine that with Jalen Hurts' intangibles as a leader and the Mamba mentality. You put the two of those together, you've got an anchor for a franchise for the next 10 years. You know, you look at it, the Eagles have the toughest schedule in football based off of win-loss records this year, next year. I'm not going to go into next year, even if we lose on Sunday, I am not going to go into 2023 thinking we're going to be a 7-10 team because we're going up against the hardest schedule. We're going to lose guys in free agency. There's going to be turnover all over this organization. I'm not going to be worried as long as Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are at the forefront of this franchise.
I mean, it's so exciting. Listen, to go from a great coach, and I love Doug Peterson. I do. I love him. I love him as a person.
Of course.
I love him as a coach, but to go from him and how successful he was, and then to have Nick Sirianni, how rare is that in the NFL? Usually when there's coaching changes, there's multiple changes before a team gets back. I mean, this team took literally 2 years. Bang, they're back.
Right back.
Literally.
1 year to get back in the playoffs, 2 years, and we're playing for the right to Super Bowl 57.
It doesn't happen, and that only shows how the Eagles are that gold standard. They're one of the best organizations. They're run from top to bottom like a fine oil machine. And when Howie Roseman, when all the jokes came down and it said, "Oh, look, Howie's creating a quarterback factory," we were all laughing about it. And it's like, you look at it now and it's like, you got to give Howie Roseman credit. He drafted Jalen Hurts, pretty high, but not, too high. Got him almost as a steal. Well, it's definitely a steal now looking back, because we have an elite quarterback and we got him in the second round. And that just goes to your theories. You've talked about it numerous times, how all these years, that every year that people are chasing these quarterbacks, you're going to see it this year. You're probably going to see 2 or 3 quarterbacks go in the first 5 picks. Absolutely. And I guarantee you they won't be as good as Jalen Hurts.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep going with these X factors. We've already talked Jalen Hurts is obviously an X factor. George Kittle, Nick Sirianni, Shanahan. I want to talk about another X factor on the 49ers side, and that's one Mr. Nicky Bosa. Okay? Obviously, so there's a lot of fake 49ers fans floating around. I think they're all Cowboys fans in disguise. Everybody's pumping their chest, trashing the Eagles, hyping up the 49ers out there. I don't know if you saw it. There's a picture of from like a Rocky movie picture with Rocky taking off the steps, and it's called Brocky, with Brock Purdy at the top of the steps in his jersey. Dude, there's so many 49ers fake fans out there, including my brother, who probably watched 2 games, but I'm going to get 40 text messages in this game because they're in the title game, so he's going to be a fan again. I saw one of these 49ers fans or fake content creators, I don't even know who they were, talking about that the Eagles, you take away their 3 best sack games of the year. Well, they only had 46 sacks or whatever it was. You can't take away numbers. You can't take away stats. That would be like me saying, take Nick Bosa off the 49ers defense, and then they have less than 25 sacks as a team. Nick Bosa is a legit, elite, like top tier defensive pass rusher, edge rusher, whatever you want to call him nowadays. You got Lane Johnson on one side playing with a torn freaking groin. You got Jordan Mailata, who, as great as he's been over his, early in his career, this year definitely had a slightly down year compared to last year. Nick Bosa will go from side to side. Are you concerned? And if you're Jeff Stoutland, how do you handle, no offense to Lane Johnson, I love Lane Johnson, but Lane Johnson with a torn groin one-on-one versus Bosa is going to be a very tough matchup. Nick Bosa's experience against Jordan Mailata is going to be a tough matchup. This is going to be the key for Jeff Stoutland and this Eagles offense is finding a way to make sure Bosa does not get after that shoulder of Jalen Hurts.
I think the key is to run at him. Just like they did with Micah Parsons. The game plan was run directly at Micah Parsons, run his way. And I think that's how you take Bosa out of the game. He's definitely going to get a sack.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to say he's not going to. Well, he hasn't had a sack yet in the first two. See, here's the thing. He will get a sack or will not get a sack that Drew's saying. You're saying he is. 2 playoff games, the 49ers have 3 sacks, or 3 or 4 sacks, none of them by Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa's not going to go 3 playoff games. He's not going to go 3 games in a row without a sack. So the odds are saying he probably will get a sack, but maybe running at him, maybe that's a way you get him off his game a little bit.
I feel more confident with a hobbled Lane Johnson than I would with a healthy Andre Dillard or a healthy whoever you insert in there. I do. I just think Lane Johnson, the numbers speak for themselves. And yes, you saw early in that game he was holding it, but once he started playing, you could tell that he was able to kind of get past the pain. Dude, he's a warrior. I have no doubt in my mind that, Nick Bosa is going to be, a tough challenge. But these are the kind of games that you live for. And Lane Johnson said it, he's out there because he doesn't want to let his teammates down. And, dude, if you don't think they see that, they know that. They know.
Is this a scenario where, we've already talked about that the linebackers of the 49ers are going to be a tough challenge for Dallas Goedert to be a big factor in this game, where you just have Dallas Goedert make sure he's chipping at the line of scrimmage every single pass? Is this a game again, just like last week, where we see more Zach Pascal and you have him in the slot and you have him run across the line and clip, Bosa on his way by, or you go back to the old Doug Peterson 12 personnel where you have 2 tight ends out there, 60-70% of the time, so you've got Jack Stahl on the line rubbing them, and Dallas Goedert still is free to go do what he does. This is all on. If Nick Bosa ends up with 2 or 3 sacks, it doesn't mean we lose the game. But if he ends up with 2 or 3 sacks, that's on Shane Steichen, Jeff Stoutland, Nick Sirianni not scheming the right way to control him.
Yeah, I think it'll depend on how the game's going. Like, do the Eagles get the ball first and they go down and they score and they have a lead? Because it all depends. Like I always say, games go by how the game is scripted, by how the score is, and where the team is at. Like, if you're playing from behind, where the Eagles get out to a big lead, then the 49ers they're not gonna be able to run the ball. They're not gonna be able to stay in touch with that and try to keep running it, because they're gonna get forced to try to go away from that game plan and pass. Whereas if the 49ers have a lead, then it could become dangerous, because then they can run the ball and they could just, they have all those weapons. They have Debo that can run. They can run every angle. So to me, I think the important thing is to get out to a lead if you're the Eagles, especially at home, because that's when home field advantage is the most. It's at its best when you get the lead.
Well, I love the whole not deferring to the second half if you win the coin toss. This is a week that if we won the toss, I would be deferring. Because you want that at the beginning of the game, the crowd is going to be at its peak, and you want to put Brock Purdy out there right from the get-go against that super loud Lincoln Financial Field fan base. Everybody has spent $2 billion on tickets. They're going to want to get their money's worth. You put Brock Purdy out there right from the get-go, and you try to rattle his cage right away. And then you worry about the offense going down and figuring out what they do, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that, even though I did say
you know me. I'm totally against deferring. I want my top-tier offense out there right from the get-go most weeks, not this week.
Yeah, because I think it's one of those things where whenever you get to the point where you're at the best versus the best, generally teams try to feel each other out and see what each other's going to do. It's not like a lot of these games where it's like, okay, like let's just throw a 70-yard bomb, which it could happen. I mean, I'm not going to put it past like listen, Nick Sirianni, these guys are smart. Like, they know stuff. Like, they might see something that they can, take advantage of. But, I think you're right. I think the best thing to do would be, because you have that crowd, put your defense on the field, and, who knows, maybe you get an interception.
Yeah, maybe
And then
you
sudden,
get him to throw that interception on the first drive, or you get a strip sack on that first drive. The momentum, like, I think this will be a close game, but all of a sudden, you do that on the first drive, the Eagles march down and score. All of a sudden, the emotion starts to overcome, Brock Purdy and the 49ers. That could steamroll and domino effect into, I don't want to call it a blowout, but a much more comfortable game than we're expecting. On the offense side, I got another X factor, and it's directly linked to Nick Bosa. I keep wanting to say Joey Bosa. I know Joey Bosa plays for the Chargers, but I just like that Joey Bosa sounds much more smoother than Nicky Bosa. So Nick Bosa is directly tied to my other X factor, and that's A.J. Brown. If you can control Nick Bosa, that gives, obviously the 49ers have a great run defense. They've given up some big plays to wide receivers. Actually, I was looking on DraftKings. I know fantasy is different than real life, but fantasy defense-wise, the 49ers defense is 28th ranked in giving stats up to wide receivers. So wide receivers get a lot of targets, a lot of catches, a lot of yards, and a majority of the touchdowns they give up is to the wide receivers. A.J. Brown obviously was frustrated last week, obviously had a bad game. He's banged up a little bit. If we can control Bosa, I think an X factor is that A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts connection on the deep ball, and I think we see it this week only if we can control Nick Bosa.
Oh yeah, I'm all over AJ Brown. I mean, I'm not a bettor, but if I was, I would be going hot and heavy on AJ Brown this week. I know we're going to give our predictions and our players.
AJ Brown over under receiving yards. He's got the highest projected over under number on DraftKings right now. I brought this up just to have a little fun today. He's at 70.5 yards projected over or under on it.
Over, definitely.
That's the way, like, you make less money if you bet the over and it hits than if you bet the under and that hits. So he's projected to go over 70.5 yards this week.
Yeah, I firmly believe it. He's going to shatter that.
Just think of these numbers for the Eagles. The top. Oh, hold on, what? Jeez, they took everybody else off the board here. Let's see if I could change. Anyway, I mean, the other names. I mean, they have all the other Eagles off the board now. I don't know why. Earlier today there was a bunch of other names, but I think what's his name was. Dallas Goedert was like 44, and I think Devontae Smith was like 60 yards receiving. Now they're not even on the board. I'm not sure why. But yeah, A.J. Brown, getting him in the flow. Anytime he's had a bad game, it always seems like the next game. I'm not saying he had a bad game last week. He just wasn't part of the flow, and that's why you have so many weapons on the Eagles offense. If one guy is being covered, you've got other options. Anytime he's had an off game, statistically speaking, the next game, he always shows up and shows out. So I kind of feel like that connection between the two of them has to be locked down. But you can't get the ball down the field to him if you can't control Nick Bosa.
Oh, absolutely. I think there was a game early in the season when he might have had 3 catches for 20 yards. In the next game, he had 10 catches for 150 yards. So that we saw that a couple times. And the way that he was in that interview where he said he's not a diva, but he does want the ball. And Nick Sirianni actually, surprisingly, I thought he would have protected him in his press conference. He actually said that, AJ was frustrated and he's a competitor and he wants the ball. He didn't deny it.
Yeah, and I love that's great. Another big check mark on Sirianni's side.
Exactly. He was honest. And listen, I don't think AJ Brown is one of these guys that's going to be humming and hawing and stewing. Him and Jalen are friends. I guarantee you they're having a conversation yo, just get me the ball. I'm going to get open. You know it. You know that there's going to be a big play in this game. I just know it. Yes, I get it. If Bosa is running around, you're not going to have the time. But I firmly believe that they will have something up their sleeve to get A.J. Brown schemed open. And
right, let's have some fun with these over-unders on DraftKings right now. Right now, Jalen Hurts' over-under is projected at 250.5 passing yards. Does he get the over or the under on 250?
I'm going over because I think it's going to be a pass. I think the Eagles are going to attack that. That's the Niners' weakness. Mm-hmm. We attacked the Giants last week because their weakness was the run. This week, we're going to flip the script. you're going to go against the pass. I'm saying I see Hurts getting about 270 to 300 yards.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. That's.
I'm telling you, it's coming.
Brock Purdy, though, surprisingly, Brock Purdy is pretty close. Is at 221.5 yards on the over/under.
I'm going under.
Okay. So and those high numbers on the passing yards directly are reflected in the projections on rushing yards. Because Christian McCaffrey's only at 57.5 yards projected. Hurts is at 47.5. Miles Sanders is only at 51.5. And Kenneth Gainwell's only at 11.5. So the Eagles are only projected to rush with their 3 top rushers for 110 yards. And you got Christian McCaffrey, their leading rusher, under 60-yard projections. So the odds are saying that this is going to be a passing game on both sides of the ball. And those over-unders on the running backs kind of make me lean the over on both Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts.
Got it. Well, you're better at this than me.
Oh no, I'm just trying to read what the numbers are telling me.
You are better. You're really good at it.
I'm decent at it.
You've come up really big the last couple weeks, man.
I've come up really big for a while now. I've had a damn good season. Some of the other numbers here, the leading getters, the favorites to score touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey is the leader in the clubhouse, the most likely to score a touchdown in this game. And then after Christian McCaffrey, Hurts, Brown, Sanders, Goddard, and Devontae Smith all have better odds to score a touchdown than anybody else on the 49ers. So to me, that just tells me if we could control Christian McCaffrey in the run game and the pass game, because he obviously catches the ball out of the backfield a lot. Is it really that simple?
I mean, listen, they have
it seems that simple based off of the odds.
I think that if you've look at teams that have had there's not many teams that the Niners have won 10 in a row, so no teams have had success over the past 10 games. But I think that you look at last week, Dallas didn't let McCaffrey go wild, and now they lost, but Dallas had chances to win that game. So, I look at it as Dallas had the best defense that the Niners had faced in that 10-game stretch. The Eagles are far and away better than Dallas's defense, in all aspects. So I don't feel worried that we're going to let them run wild on us. Could it happen? Yes, obviously. I've seen Christian McCaffrey have those games where, all of a sudden he's just, on fire and, getting that 60-yard little swing pass and he takes it all the way to the house. But I think it is that smart to kind of limit. You got to pick somebody. I mean, you can't listen. They have multiple guys. We've talked about Kittle being the X factor for them, but they have Debo. They have Elijah Mitchell. They have Ayuk. Ayuk had his best season this year. He was their best wide receiver. And we talk a lot. We talk a lot about the other guys. Brandon Ayuk is a guy that it's funny. He was in that Rager draft. Along with T. Higgins. So 2 other guys that were taken way after Rager, and they're both superstars. So don't count Ayuk as some slouch either. I'm not
I agree with you on that. All right, let's get to predictions because I want to make some predictions here, but I want to save the last 10 or so minutes to talk a little bit about the other championship game. Obviously, we're both on board with the Eagles winning this game. Do you have a prediction, and what is it, and how does it get there for you?
Okay, so my prediction is I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I'm confident that the Eagles are going to win it fairly. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but the score will dictate. It's going to be 27-17. I see them winning by 10. Wow. I think the Niners will be driving later in the game to kind of make it close, and Brock Purdy's going to throw an interception. I see an interception in this game. I think he's going to be rattled to the point where he makes a mistake finally. Because I just think that the link gives us that – it just is that advantage. And I know our fans are going to be out there early. They're probably already out there. I wouldn't be surprised.
Is there a wing game going on tonight that they could buy tickets to start tailgating tonight? And then just
that would be pretty badass. But I think –
do they allow that anymore?
No.
Overnight in the parking lot? Because they did back in the day. So. I spent an entire weekend living in Veterans Stadium parking lot once. So,
yeah, I did a couple of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that score, I'm going to go. My player of the game, I kind of already teased it, but my player of the game is going to be A.J. Brown. I think he's getting 2 touchdowns in this game. He's going for 150 yards, and that's why it hurts with the big passing yards number, because I think he will spread the ball around, but I think A.J. is going to be a major factor because their weakness is against the pass, and specifically that one cornerback. I forget his name, but he is not like – AJ will manhandle him. I see it coming. So that's my score and my prediction, and that's how.
Obviously, I got the Eagles winning. I don't know. I mean, as always, I've got multiple scores written down here, and I've been crossing them off and rewriting them and as we go on this show here. And I'm keeping it close. I think that this game will be neck and neck the entire game. I'm gonna say 24-20 Eagles. And I even had a 31-20 Eagles number written down here. But the 49ers have only given up 20 points or more in a game 3 times this year in the regular season. And then once last week against Seattle in the playoffs, or 2 weeks ago against Seattle in the playoffs. And they've only given up 30 points one of those 3 times. That was late in the season to the Raiders. I mean, I'm looking at the 49ers here this year. They gave up 19, 7, 10, 9, 15. They gave up 28 there, then 23, 14, 16, 10, 0, 7, 13, 13. This 49ers defense is pretty stout, and it is going to be hard to move the ball. Now, I see the way I –
bad teams.
What's that?
Stacked against bad teams. Eagles are the best offense in the league.
That's fine. That's fine. Way I see this game playing out. I see this game playing out like this. I see the Eagles coming out. If they get Brock Purdy the ball first, I do see the crowd rattling him early, and the Eagles jumping out to a 7-0, 10-0 lead, something like that early behind the momentum. But then I see a big momentum swing in the middle of the game, the second and the third quarter, and the 49ers will take the lead in this game. That culture and that system and that experience factor from Kyle Shanahan and all the guys that have been there, done that, will take over. Because let's be honest, for as experienced as the 49ers are, the Eagles don't have a lot. They have Lane Johnson, they have Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox. That's it. They've got a lot of young guys that have never been there, and their coaches have never been here before. So I see the Eagles jumping out to the early lead, the experience factor kind of playing into the middle guts of the game, which, maybe the 49ers end up with a 20-10 lead at some point, 20-14 lead at some point. And then I see the Eagles in the fourth quarter, the intangibles, the leadership, the swagger of Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni taking over, and that's how they get to 24. I think the Eagles have to score a touchdown at the end of the game to win it, and I have the confidence in Jalen Hurts. In my mind, there was a regular season game. So you remember the Tim Tebow, Pittsburgh playoff when the Broncos beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs that season, his main season as a starter. There was a game against the Jets late in the season where they were down, the Broncos, with Tim Tebow. And Tim Tebow literally put the Broncos on his back and literally was bowling over guys to score touchdowns and get that team down the field to win it, which helped propel them to the playoffs. And then they ended up winning that game against Pittsburgh. I think it was Pittsburgh in the playoffs when he threw an overtime touchdown to Demaryius Thomas. I see something similar to that. It's going to come down to the 2-minute drill, less than that. Eagles down. Jalen Hurts was literally going to will this team to victory. He is going to lay his body on the line. My player of the game is Jalen Hurts, not A.J. Brown, because Jalen Hurts is going to score the winning touchdown to put us over the top. That's how I see it playing out. It's the intangibles and it's the leadership and the swagger that is going to put us over the top. I'm not saying that we're less talented than the 49ers. I'm just saying that it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out battle, and the intangibles win out in the end.
I like it a lot.
All right, so we both got the Eagles winning. Who are we playing in the Super Bowl then in 2 weeks? That's the question. When we do this Football Friday show in 2 weeks and we do our X Factors and predictions, who are we going to play? It's Cincinnati versus Kansas City on Sunday in the 6:30 game. Let's spend about 10 minutes here. I'm torn on this game because obviously you got the Patrick Mahomes injury. If Patrick Mahomes was healthy, I would be all in on Kansas City winning this game. But I just don't know how a guy's playing. A high ankle sprain is like a 3, 4, 5 week recovery time. and he played on it last week, and he's gonna play on it again on Sunday. I mean, unless he's like Superman, I don't know. Maybe he is Superman. I don't know how the Chiefs can play and beat the Bengals offense, like keep up with them offensively, if Patrick Mahomes is limping around like he was last week.
I mean, listen, dude, you're spot on. I'm torn myself, but I feel like everybody is picking the Bengals because of the injury,
Mm-hmm.
but and because of the previous history. The Bengals won last year, and they won bigger games against the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
But something in my gut is telling me that we're going to see Eagles Chiefs in the Super Bowl. There's something in my gut that's leading me to that feeling that it's going to be Eagles Chiefs because of the Andy Reid. It's going to be all that kind of storylines. And listen, I've almost gotten to the point with Pat Mahomes that I am with Brady, where I never will doubt Pat Mahomes. As much as, yes, it's a tough injury, but I didn't expect him to come back last week and play and win that game. I thought they were going to end up losing when he got hurt. And yeah. I mean, and listen, the Bengals, they're not imperfect. Like, Joe Burrow is great. I love Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow does make mistakes. Let's not be.
And their offensive line is weak. They give up a lot of sacks. And yeah, there's some issues there.
I don't know. You're right. I'm torn, and it's hard for me because everyone's saying the Bengals, but there's just something in my gut that's telling me it's going to be the Chiefs.
All right. So this is a shout out to my man Corey Monty and Grant Downey. I know, Corey, you're probably sound asleep because you live in Hawaii now. It's probably like 3:30 in the morning out there. Grant, it's like 6:30 for you out there on the West Coast. But yeah, I'm going Chiefs. I think unless Patrick Mahomes comes out and is just so injured that he has to come out of the game, I'm going 35-21 Chiefs. Beat them. And I think the X factor is Andy Reid's been here, done it before. One of the I know Mark will disagree with me on this because he hates Andy Reid, but Andy Reid is one of the 5 greatest coaches of all time in football. He's going to be smart enough to know to protect Mahomes, and you're going to see another big game from Isaiah Pacheco, their young rookie running back, who has burst on the scene the last 8 weeks and all. And I think the Eagles are actually watching that because that's what they foresee with Kenny Gainwell in the future, that kind of a role. I think it's a Chiefs game. They dominate. Joe Cool throws an interception. The Chiefs have had a couple pick sixes this year. I see that is how it's playing out. Unless Patrick Mahomes is so banged up that he can't finish the game. I wrote down 2 scores. I wrote down 35-21 and 35-21 with both teams winning. I'm leaning the Chiefs as long as Patrick Mahomes is playing this game.
All right, so I already said Chiefs. I'll give you my score. I'm going to go 35. I'm on the same fence as you. 27.
A little closer.
I think the Bengals, I think Burrow is going to do everything in his power to win. But
And he's got that swagger. I mean, you think about it. No offense. Like, I want to see the Eagles versus the Chiefs because I want to see that Andy Reid versus Philly Super Bowl so bad. But Joe Cool, I mean, we talk about it. We talk about Jalen Hurts' intangibles. Joe Burrow's got him too. I mean, there's a scenario where we're going to see at some point in the next 10 years a Jalen Hurts versus Joe Burrow Super Bowl. It might be this year. It might be next. It might be 7 years down from now. But Joe Burrow is going to play in 4 or 5 Super Bowls in his career. There's no doubt about it. Joe Burrow, to me, is number 2 in the quarterback pantheon right behind Patrick Mahomes at this point in the NFL. And there's a chance that we have to have the conversation in the offseason that is Joe Burrow better than Patrick Mahomes going forward. I mean, I really, truly feel that that's where Joe Burrow is. He's that elite. And there's a lot of comparisons to who's going to be better, Burrow or Justin Herbert. I think there's no comparison there because Burrow has those intangibles. So while I'm predicting the Chiefs to win this game, I think it's going to be that rallying cry behind Mahomes, that experience factor of Andy Reid knowing to handle this situation that kind of puts him over the top. But would it surprise you? Because it wouldn't surprise me if Joe Burrow comes out and just smokes the Chiefs on Sunday night. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because the Bengals have. Let's be real. The Bengals have elite weapons. They have Jamar.
And they have elite experience. They were all in the Super. It's almost the exact same team that was in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, and they listen, they did a lot last year to show people that Joe Burrow is, in that top tier conversation. I just think their offensive line to me is still a big question mark. Let's be real. I think the better matchup for the Eagles would be the Bengals in the Super Bowl. I think it would be tougher to beat the Chiefs because of Mahomes.
Yeah, and the emotion of Andy Reid in the Super Bowl might take over a little bit. I don't know.
Our pass rush matches up really well against the Bengals offensive line.
Yeah. And we have a deep secondary. We have Slay or Bradbury that can cover Chase. The other one could cover Higgins or Boyd, and hopefully Maddox is back this week. If not, hopefully he would be back for that Super Bowl game. So we have 3 elite, cover corners. I get what you're saying there, but that offense is still top notch. So I don't know if it would be a better matchup. I think both matchups would be extremely, extremely difficult for the Eagles. And I kind of have a feeling, depending on how this week plays out, that if it is Eagles versus either of those two teams, that I might be sitting here on Football Friday considering picking the other team to beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Yes, my fandom would probably take over, and I would probably predict an Eagles victory, but I would make a serious case that the Eagles wouldn't win that Super Bowl against those two teams.
Well, nobody wants, as an Eagles fan, to say that they're going to lose, but let's face it, we've lost Super Bowls. We lost against the Raiders. We lost against the Patriots in 2004. I mean, that was a devastating loss.
Yeah.
Because we thought we could have won that game, and McNabb, obviously those kind of issues. But I don't blame McNabb. I just think I don't know. I don't know what happened in that game.
I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that one.
I'm just saying that we all want to expect that it's just going to be a foregone conclusion that the Eagles win. But you're right.
It's not a foregone conclusion that they make the Super Bowl, in my mind.
No.
We're both predicting the Eagles. Maybe there's like a 1% part of me that my prediction has been made based off of my fandom. I do think the Eagles are the better team overall, big picture, everything we talked about in the show. I do think they're the better team, but it is such a narrow, difference between the 49ers and the Eagles that on Monday when we come on this show, if the Eagles lose, I won't be surprised. I think the Eagles will win. I'm predicting the Eagles to win, but if it's a 24-20 49ers win, I'm going to say, okay. You know what I mean? It's the 2 best teams in the NFC doing battle, 2 of the 4 best teams in the NFL doing battle for the right to the Super Bowl. It's a razor thin margin in this game for the Eagles to win, and it would be the same thing come Super Bowl in 2 weeks. It's so razor thin. We don't know how Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are going to. We assume that their intangibles are going to play out well, but it could go the other way. The inexperience factor could go the other way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not totally looking at this with blinders on to the fact that I don't think the Eagles could lose, but I told you why. The only way the Eagles will lose is if the Eagles beat themselves, meaning turnovers or not having a good game plan or coming out flat, which I don't see happening. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We are 2 days away. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say other than that. I think it's a perfect moment to wrap it up. Jason's got 27-17. I got 24-20. We both got Eagles versus the Chiefs in that Super Bowl. Man, I'm just excited that we're here. I hope Monday's show will be positive. And honestly, this is going to be exactly like the Philly situation. If the Eagles lose on Sunday, we're going to be frustrated and pissed off on Monday. But a month from now, we'll be looking back that this has been a fantastic season here, in Philadelphia for football, because the future is so bright for this Eagles team.
Yes, sir.
All right. We're going to wrap up Trending in the AM right there. We'll be back next week. We'll be live, Sunday with a pregame show right here on YouTube. So again, make sure you like and subscribe to the DSM Media YouTube page. If you drop your comments and thoughts and predictions on the replay, as this will be replaying all weekend long, I will go back and read them and comment and respond to them. Make sure you're following both of us on Twitter. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, hit us up on Twitter. We'd greatly appreciate it. Let's enjoy it, people. Eyes of the world on Philadelphia this weekend. Let's show up. Let's show out. Let's be respectful. Let's not throw any batteries at any 49ers fans. I may throw them at my brother if I see him this weekend. but that's personal. That's not, at the stadium. Nobody will see that. Everybody have a great day. Yo, Corey, Grant, I'm bringing the pizza. Corey, you bring the bottle of Jack. Grant, you bring the 6-pack. You come out to Philly. We'll have a big Super Bowl celebration. Eagles versus Chiefs. That's how it's going to go. Hey, everybody, go Birds.
Go Birds.
Let's get this done, and let's start talking Super Bowl for the Eagles next week. Yo, Train the AM out.
Go.